Hey guys, I wanted to jump on and do a comparison of the Ronin 4-day 6K head and the 8K head, which I currently have on the camera body at the moment. This is just a test to kind of see what is really the differences between the two in a little bit more of a real world situation. There's some videos out there already by Gerald Undone where he does a little bit more scientific charts-based analysis. I didn't feel like that was helpful for me as an end user, where I'm trying to be a little bit more in the creative narrative space. It's helpful, but I felt like there needs to be a little bit more resources. Some of the reason why I even want to do this is because that's a big decision to spend $3,000 on extra add-on or upgrade for a system that's already pretty expensive. With all the add-ons, I probably got $12,000 to $16,000 in the package before that. So to try to figure out, like, man, is it worth spending that extra bump of money? And for me, the biggest thing is I'm trying to mix this in with a couple different cameras. So my main camera is an Alexa Mini, and I'm trying to figure out, like, hey, is this gonna stand up, and can I maybe not have these stand by side by side, but in a situation where I'm going from locked off shots to something where there's movement, is the color science gonna be comparable or adjustable enough that I can get them in the same realm? I just wanted to put this as a resource for everybody to give a little side by side. I'm not super technical in these means. I'm kind of just working as a layman in it, but hopefully you just being able to see the differences between the two can help you make your own decision when you're trying to build out your package with the Ronin 4D.
Okay, here I am inside of Resolve. I'm going to show the little side-by-side of both of the cameras. Now, something interesting that I noticed between the two cameras right off the bat, let's pull this image up with my beautiful friend Silas Rowland there, another filmmaker in the area, is it's super interesting that the 6K footage, if you see here, I had to give it a little bit of a tint adjustment between the two cameras. I'll show side by side. If I turn that tint off, it gets a little bit more magenta. Now, even doing a little bit of color correction, I don't think it comes out perfectly. Like, the greens have a little bit more saturation. So I'm just going to show you the original images, all the same settings between the cameras, but for some reason the 6K sensor shifts a little bit of a magenta-ish. But some of my observations between the two, obviously there's a resolution difference, 8K on the left, 6K on the right. My biggest thing that I notice is the color is actually significantly isn't a good word, slightly different, to the point that it can be color corrected. No, you could color correct these to match almost perfectly. However, I will say, out of the box, it is noticeable that the 8K head has a more pleasant color rendition on its own. So some of my observations is, one, the 6K definitely leans towards a magenta kind of color tone that needs to be pulled out a little bit. Without it being corrected, it's some extra magenta. It makes the reds feel a little bit more saturated, not in a terrible way, but maybe a little bit too much, especially on the skin tones. I'm kind of seeing maybe pinkish colors that I wouldn't want. Now, when I try to do a color adjustment to try to get these in the same realm, the interesting thing is now the skin tones look good, but now my whites are bleeding a little bit of green as well. So it's like, now that the skin tones are a good area, that they kind of match the 8K sensor, I'm noticing just how it washes the image towards that direction overall. With a little bit more time and effort, you could obviously fix this, but I mean, one of the advantages of having that 8K sensor is just out of the box having a little bit more pleasant color tone. This is also being filmed with the Thypoc Shamira C, so that you know what lens is being used on both of these cameras. But these were done in the same environment, exact same lighting situation, and they do have a little bit of differences between the two. Now, one of the things I would also say with the 8K sensor, it has a more rich color saturation, I would go to say. Like the reds here, it's not, I wouldn't even call it more saturated. It's just a deeper, richer color. I can also note that on the jacket a little bit. And here again, this is pixel peeping. This is me looking at them side by side, getting into the really gritty, nitty gritty, but just wanting to know exactly what is the difference between these two cameras and sensors. So even when we focus up on the Boba Fett helmet here, like, one of the things I'm kind of noticing between the two shots is like the color rendition, if I go back to the original without the magenta or without the green shift, is the colors just have a little bit more richness inside of this 8K sensor. Now, when it comes to brass tacks, if you were filming individually just with the 6K head, I don't think it'd be noticeable, but when you have them side by side, you can kind of see that stuff. Let me pull up two other shots here. This is like a little bit more of a medium shot with the correction on the 6K head again. So I'm kind of pushing it more towards green a little bit in order to try to get rid of all that magenta shift that's inside of there. I mean, it's the same deal. I see a little bit more of a rich saturation inside of the hat. His beard feels like it has a little bit more resolution power as well. That probably just comes from being an 8K sensor on top of it. But yeah, just overall more pleasant, more accurate skin tones that I can see between these two camera sensors. And then this last one with the medium close up. So here again, I have a green shift to kind of push them into the same place. Let's look at some of this, see if they line up. Yeah, here we go. Same observations. I just like how it controls the magenta colors a little bit more. The blacks seem to be quite similar. Obviously, because it's the same lens, a lot of the characteristics of the lens is kind of coming out that you can see and notice as well. So I would go to say, yes, there's definitely a difference between the two sensors. How noticeable it might be for somebody if they're just looking at the footage on its own, I don't know. Okay, so now we have a clip that was outside during the day. I wanted to mostly see, especially when you start getting more detailed stuff. So sometimes certain sensors can struggle when it comes to foliage and trees. Like what I can see here on my desktop is, I mean, everything. This is an 8K sensor as well. Looks sharp, super tactile. I get a lot of detail inside of some of these areas, especially with all the leaves and trees and stuff. That's nice to see. I don't really see any issues with moire. Now, something I have noticed in just filming in general, moire can pop up even with the 8K sensor, but it's not too bad. I'm going to go to the 6K shot, looking at it full screen. Here again, kind of has that magenta shift a little bit. I'm going to look at these side by side. If I go back and forth between the two of them, man, that would be pretty, on a wide shot like this, that'd be pretty hard to tell. I'm going to pull over my magenta shift a little bit just to see. That might be a little bit too far. I'll back it off a little bit. Man, I would be hard pressed to be able to tell the difference on a wide shot like this. When you're not having to deal with skin tones and such, I would go to say that these are quite similar.
So that is the differences that I saw with the 8K versus the 4K head on the Ronin 4D. Now, I'm just gonna say that that was pixel peeping to the max. You might not even be able to see it on YouTube with the compression as well. So at the end of the day, when most things are getting uploaded online and getting compressed, and even the color can change during that, the average person, I don't know if it's worth fretting about those two. Now I'm just gonna say that for me, trying to go for the highest fidelity that I can with the workflow that I'm going with narrative, it feels like it makes enough of a difference for me that I'll probably go ahead and keep the 8K sensor and have the 6K as a backup. Just knowing that the color science within skin tones feels a little bit better to me. I'm not talking, it's not night and day difference at all. If you have the 6K sensor, I wouldn't feel nervous about shooting with that. If for some reason I didn't have the 8K and you had to use the 6K sensor, it feels like it's totally worth putting in. But it is noticeable that there is a difference in the color science between the two, and that the 6K sensor, to me, with the tests I was doing at the same settings, needed to be pushed a little bit towards green because of that magenta shift. So it's just an extra step for me that in post-production could get dropped off if you're sending it off to somebody else or a different colorist is working on it. It's just one of those added elements that I hate, knowing that, hey, if you're shooting off footage that needs to be corrected and somebody doesn't do it, and then you go to the final product and realize, I don't like that. So I'd rather have something that's as pure as possible from the capture source. On top of that, it's kind of nice to know that I'm gonna have a backup gimbal head as well. So if I'm gonna keep the 8K, run with that mostly, knowing that the 6K head is still there. If I'm gonna do more car rigging, it's not as valuable. It's not $3,600. It's a little bit closer to $1,000. So I can throw that thing out, be a little bit more violent with it maybe, or just not as have to be as concerned knowing that I've still got the 8K head ready to go as well. So there's a little bit of a value in having a backup system with that, but I think on average, most people, it's not the difference between getting a job or not. For me, it's just wanting to push the fidelity as far as it can. I think the 6K head is totally acceptable and probably where 90% of people should be spending their money on. It's just interesting to have that 8K head. And obviously there's all these settings as well. So you can go look at the breakdown sheet of all the different settings that you get. You have better frame rate options. You obviously have different resolution in the camera itself. So some of those options could be worth it for you as well. I think it's really nice to be able to go from 8K, and then you know that when you go to 4K, it's a perfect downsizing as well. So hopefully 4K footage is gonna look really good. Overall, that's all I'm shooting with it as well. Just to shoot in 8K seems a little overkill to me, especially when I'm matching it with something like an Alexa Mini that has an OG source of 2K upscaled to 4K. So it's interesting to me to not see more side-by-sides. If you guys are interested in some more side-by-sides, throw it in the comments so I know I can try to go out and film some more stuff. That was obviously a limited test in a single environment, but I do think the results were noticeable over the different lenses. Now the outside example, that's super interesting to me. There is. If you can tell me that you can see a difference and it's noticeable in a way that makes you feel like one is better than the other, I think you'd be insane. They look so similar, especially in kind of a complex scene where there's lots of different colors going on that are not grounded to some source, in the sense that with skin tones, your eye knows exactly what to pick up on, but when it's outside and it's browns and greens and it's the sky, man, they almost look identical there. So I think hopefully that information could help you be more informed in your own decision. I'm not gonna tell you to go one or the other way. I just want you to know if you're gonna spend $3,600 on that new sensor, what are you actually getting with it? So thanks for watching, and if you have any thoughts or ideas for some future tests, let me know. Thanks.